Let's take a closer look at this now. William Fry is an internationally regarded demographer and senior fellow at the Brookings Institution. He joins us live now from Washington, D.C. Mr. Fry, thank you so much for joining us. Now, we know people are concerned.
Good to be with you.
Thank you. That the citizenship question will intimidate immigrants and perhaps discourage participation in the census. But can you help our audience really understand why this is a big deal and how it can affect people who are U.S. citizens?
Yeah, well, I think, normally, even on a normal circumstance, in a normal political climate, it's almost a difficult sell to have, particularly people who are non-citizens, even legal non-citizens, to go along with the census, because they're a little bit afraid that if they register with the government, even if they're legal, maybe their family members aren't, maybe someone else in their community isn't, and they're quite concerned about it. And that's under normal circumstances. Now we have a very kind of volatile political climate with respect to immigration. And on top of it, there's going to be a question proposed now to ask, are you a legal citizen of the United States? I think that will have a big impact on how successful the census will be in pushing people away who really don't want to answer that kind of question.
Well, it's interesting, Mr. Fry, because the rationale, according to the administration, is that this question is being asked in order to protect minority communities. What do you think about that?
Well, the Justice Department has used the rationale that this is to help enact the Voting Rights Act, which requires to understanding of where different racial minorities reside in different potential election districts. Whether they're citizens is an important part of that. But interestingly, no civil rights group had brought that up as something for the Justice Department to do. And in fact, the civil rights groups that are all around are telling that this is going to have the opposite effect in the extent that the kind of people they want to be able to count are going to be afraid, that they were able to count, are going to be afraid to answer the question. So it's kind of a moot argument on the part of the people who would seem to be who the administration thinks should be most protected by this. They don't feel that they're being protected by this.
And let's suppose people opt not to answer because of that question. What could an undercount do to a city like Miami or any other U.S. city with large immigrant communities, particularly when it comes to federal funding?
Well, I think in terms of federal funding, the distribution of all kinds of programs, be it for housing, be it for programs for children, be it for programs for health, gets allocated on the basis of communities. And within a state, whether it's Florida or California or even Texas, what this will do will tend to undercount and underrepresent people in big cities and overrepresent people in rural areas and in small towns. On top of that, because a lot of the younger population, a younger minority population lives in those big cities, it'll especially affect impacts on children as they get funds from various state and federal sources, because it'll be done on the basis of a flawed census and a flawed enumeration of people in different areas.
And the census is also used to determine what kind of representation each state gets in Washington, D.C., right?
That's correct. And I think it's already the case, people have figured out, that California could lose one seat because it's kind of on the cusp anyway, if their very big non-citizen population has a reluctance to fill out the census form. And then on top of that, even within states, not only the congressional districts, but also state legislative districts will have that kind of impact. As I said before, the rural areas will be overrepresented. The urban areas will be underrepresented as a result of this account.
And Mr. Fry, is there another way that the Justice Department can go about getting this citizen data outside of asking this question in the census?
Yes, the same way they've been doing it ever since the Voting Rights Act was passed in the 1960s. They can get it from other kinds of surveys, and particularly now we have something called the American Community Survey, which asks this question every year to a very large part of the population. It doesn't have all that baggage that it would have if it was attached to the census, but it's good enough to be able to affect these Voting Rights Acts. And as I say, they've been doing this ever since that legislation was started without having a census question on citizenship.
Last question, Mr. Fry, because we heard from the Attorney General of California. Just within the last hour or so, the Attorney General of New York has come forward and said that he too will join a lawsuit to try to stop this question from being included in the census in 2020. Can you put that into some historical context for us? Has there ever been a lawsuit, a successful lawsuit, to challenge some of the questions that are included in a U.S. census?
Yeah, well, there might have been. That's not something that comes to my mind, but I do think there's so much pushback against this from all kinds of sources. 10 senators have written the Department of Justice. 19 attorneys general have written the Department of Justice, and now lots of different advocacy groups and agencies are writing to the government about this. I think if there's ever happens a chance to this pass, get turned over by the courts, this will be the time that it happens.
Mr. William Frey from the Brookings Institution, thank you so much for joining us from Washington, D.C.